What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'm doing my way too early 2023 NASCAR Cup Series playoff predictions. I'll go through all 16 drivers who will make the playoffs, and I'll tell you who I think will make the playoffs, and then I'll tell you the drivers who I think will not make the playoffs in 2023. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first driver I think is easily going to make the playoffs in 2023 is the driver of the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports, Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson had a pretty solid year in 2022 where he scored 3 victories. While not as good as 2021, I expect Kyle Larson to bounce back and do very, very good. Also, Kyle Larson is in a very, very fast car, and I think this team is going to be even stronger in 2023. I think Larson is an easy lock into the playoffs in 2023, and this is a no-brainer. I think Kyle Larson easily makes the playoffs. The second driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2023 is a driver of the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports, Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had a very strong year in 2022, scoring 5 wins and probably being the most consistent driver throughout the whole entire season. They struggled near the end of the playoffs nonetheless, but I expect that Chase Elliott is going to absolutely be a threat in 2023 in that number 9 car. I expect him to be really, really strong and get quite a few victories next season. The third driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2023 is a driver of the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, Denny Hamlin. Now, while I don't think Denny Hamlin is going to win as much as he has in the past, I think that Denny Hamlin is going to be a very easy lock into the 2023 playoffs just because of how much experience he has. Now, I think next year, 2023, is going to be the last year Denny Hamlin is extremely competitive. Reason being that Denny Hamlin, by the end of 2023, is going to be 43 years of age. And usually the prime of drivers is past the age of 43. So I think Denny Hamlin next year will have his last fantastic year, but I think he easily makes the playoffs. And as there's contract talks around Denny Hamlin past 2023, so that can be another factor that plays a role. The fourth driver who I think is going to make the playoffs is the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, the 2022 champion, and the driver 22 for Team Penske, Joey Logano. Joe Logano, while I expect him to not win as much in 2023, I think that Logano is going to be very, very consistent. The 22 team has always been one of the most consistent organizations, and I think he only gets 1 win, a points paying win, and 1 All-Star win next year. I think Logano, though, is still going to be very, very consistent in that 22 car, and I expect the 22 team to be extremely strong heading into 2023. The fifth driver I think is going to make the playoffs in 2023 is a driver of the 1 car for Trackhouse Racing, Ross Chastain. I think Ross Chastain is going to be a championship contender once again in 2023. A lot of people thought Ross Chastain, as the year progressed in 2022, they thought he was going to struggle, and he really never struggled except near the end of the regular season. But he bounced back and made it to the championship 4. I think Trackhouse is only going to get better in 2023, and I expect some pretty big things for Ross Chastain next year. I think Ross Chastain easily makes the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs next year. The 6th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is a driver of the 4 car for Stewart-Haas Racing, Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick is a very easy lock for me, though I think it's going to be a little bit harder for Kevin Harvick to make it. Next year, Kevin Harvick at the start of the season will be 47 years of age, and by the end of the year, he'll be 48 years old. Now, Kevin Harvick obviously has been in the Cup Series now for a very long time. This will be his 23rd full-time season. I don't think Harvick's going to win until near the end of the season, but I think he'll be a little bit consistent. But I do think his stats are going to be a little bit worse than they have been in previous seasons. That being said, I think he'll also announce retirement, by the way, next season. That being said, though, I think Harvick is a very easy lock going into the playoffs. I think he makes the playoffs in 2023. The 7th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is a driver of the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports, William Byron. William Byron had a very good year last year. Well, in winning last year, got 2 victories, but near the end of the season, in the middle portion of the year, he kind of struggled. But I think that William Byron in the 2023 year is going to be a little more consistent next year. I think Byron's only going to win 1 or 2 races again like he did in 2022. But I do think that William Byron is going to be a little more consistent as a driver next season. And I expect him to do pretty good in 2023. And I think he easily makes the playoffs. The 8th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2023 is a driver of the 12th car for Team Penske, Ryan Blaney. Not only do I think he's going to easily make the playoffs in 2023, but I also think Ryan Blaney is going to get back to victory lane. The last time Ryan Blaney won a race in the NASCAR Cup Series, a points-paying race, was the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series race at Daytona. I think that Ryan Blaney is going to easily make the playoffs. The 12 team looked extremely strong near the end of the season. They just struggle with trying to advance through these playoffs. But I think Ryan Blaney is going to be an easy driver and an easy lock into the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2023. The ninth driver, I think, is going to make the NASCAR playoffs pretty easily. This one was a little bit more of a hard one to predict, but the next guy I got making the playoffs is Kyle Busch, who, of course, is moving over to Richard Childress Racing to drive the A car next season. Kyle Busch has been with Joe Gibbs Racing the last 15 seasons, will make a transition over to Richard Childress Racing. I think that A car was really strong last year with Tyler Reddick, and I expect Kyle Busch to continue having the same performances that he had in 2022 Tyler Reddick did. I know that Reddick, we'll talk about Reddick here in just a little bit, but I think Kyle Busch is a very easy lock into the 2023 playoffs, and I think he actually will be a championship contender. I think he'll have one of his best seasons in a long time, and I think he also will be a top 5 driver in the rankings at the end of the year as well. I expect Kyle Busch to be very, very strong in 2023. The 10th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2023 is a driver of the 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell had a breakout year last year. He had 3 wins in 2022, those wins coming with 2 clutch victories near the end of the season in the playoffs, and also one at New Hampshire. Now, I am expecting Christopher Bell to have a little bit of a downgrade when it comes to the amount of wins he has, because I think in 2023, I think he's only going to win 1 race, and I think that's going to come traditionally at New Hampshire. That being said, though, Christopher Bell is going to be extremely consistent like he was in 2022, and in 2023, I think he'll be very, very good. The 11th driver, I think, is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is a driver of the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, Martin Truex Jr. While Martin Truex Jr. did finish top 5 in the regular season points near the end of the season, he completely missed the playoffs for the first time since joining Furniture World Racing in 2014. Martin Truex Jr. really just couldn't win last year. And I think that's going to change this year. I think he gets back into his groove. I think the 19 team is going to be a lot stronger next season, and I think he will be an outside contender for the championship. They're going to be not only consistent, but I think they're going to win a race or 2 next season, and I think he finally makes it back to the NASCAR Cup Series class in 2023. This is where things get a little more tricky. The 12th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series class is a driver of the 2 car for Team Penske, Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric is pretty much a no-brainer for me. I think this one was a little bit more difficult because Cindric did have a little bit of an up and down year in 2022. However, Austin Cindric I think is a very easy lock to get into the 2023 playoffs because Austin Cindric, he's going to have more experience than he did in 2022. Not only that, I think he also wins a race to get into the playoffs as well. But I think they're going to make that 2 car a lot stronger of an organization next season. I think Jerry Bowen's experience is really going to come into play into helping out Austin Cindric, and I think they're going to be more solid on the road courses as well. I think Cindric will make the playoffs in 2023. The 13th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is a driver of the 45 car for 2311 Racing, Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick will be jumping away from Richard Childress Racing in 2023. He'll be taking over for Kurt Busch on a full-time basis in 2023. Tyler Reddick, it is an extremely talented driver. In 2022, he scored 3 victories. I think the 2311 Racing is going to be a much stronger organization next season. You look at 2311, how much they improved in 2022, especially near the end of the year. They got 2 wins as an organization last year. Both of them coming at Kansas, where the 45 won both races, one with Kurt Busch and one with Bubba Wallace. I think Tyler Reddick is going to be a very easy lock next season. I just look at Reddick to be an outside championship threat as well. Yes, I have him 13 out of 16 guys, but that doesn't mean where I think they're going to finish at the end of the season. I just look at Tyler Reddick to be extremely strong in the 2023 season, and I think he's going to be extremely quick and extremely fast next year. I think he's going to be a very easy lock to make the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. The 14th driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is a driver of the 23 car for 2311 Racing, Bubba Wallace. Yes, I have Bubba Wallace making it in 2023. Now, Bubba Wallace in 2022 had an up and down season. He started the year off with a bank, finishing in 2nd at Daytona. But for the most part of the first half of the year, outside of a couple really strong runs at Kansas and also a decent run at Dover and a couple other races in the first half of the regular season, he really struggled. But as the year progressed, the 23 team and the 45 team got very, very strong. So much near the end of the season, Bubba Wallace actually went on to win at Kansas. I think the Bubba Wallace, if he can start the year off, which I think they are, if he can start the year off the way he ended 2022, way he started off 2023 year and way he ended 2022, you got to look at Bubba Wallace as a legitimate threat to have a chance at the championship. I look at Bubba to be a very strong contender next season, and I think he actually will be an outside championship threat. I don't think it'll be very easy locked to the playoffs, but I think he'll win a couple races next year and get his first multi-win season in a series, which would be very, very impressive. I think Bubba Wallace easily makes the playoffs in 2023. The 15 driver I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is, this one's a little bit more controversial too, but the driver's 16 car for Colleague Racing, AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger is going full-time Cup racing next year. What is his advantage going the next year? Road courses. I think with the fact he's got the experience on the road courses, I think is really going to play a factor into helping out AJ Allmendinger. And I think he's going to win at the Indianapolis road course next season. I think he's also going to win a lot of stages. It would not shock or surprise if AJ is a legitimate championship contender in 2023. The 16 team near the end of the year look really, really strong, especially I think AJ had a lot of top 10 finishes in the final 7-8 races of the season, and that 16 car look really, really good. I think a 16 team makes the playoffs in 2023 as a shocker, but I think they're going to win and be very, very good. And the final driver who I think is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2023 is the driver of the 99 for Trackhouse Racing, Daniel Suarez. I think Daniel Suarez is going to ultimately improve. I think he gets a win very early in the year at Circuit Americas, and I also think Daniel Suarez is going to be extremely consistent next season. The 99 camp has been a very team has been shown so much promise, and they really did good near the end of the year. They had a lot of pace and a lot of speed, and I think that Daniel Suarez will be very, very strong heading into 2023. So I think the pace is really going to come into play, really help out Daniel Suarez, and I think he easily will make the playoffs in 2023. So those are all the guys that are making the playoffs. Now let's talk about all the drivers who are not making the playoffs in 2023. And I got 17 drivers to talk about. First, let's talk about Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman, while I think he's going to be very good, and it's controversial to say he's not going to make the playoffs, I don't really trust Alex Bowman due to the issues with the concussions he had. Now, that's not saying Bowman is going to be bad because he's got a new crew chief going the next year, and that, of course, is Blake Harris, who will be his crew chief jumping away from the 34 camp. I'm just nervous about Bowman going the next year. I think he's going to form way too late. I think he wins a race, but I think he sadly misses the playoffs. Next, let's talk about Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe in 2023 is kind of going to be a shocker considering he nearly made the championship 4. Chase Briscoe, don't trust the speed of that 14 camp. They have a good crew chief over there. They've got good things going on with that team. But I'm just very nervous about Chase Briscoe going to next year, so I don't have him making the playoffs. The third driver I've missed in the playoffs is Eric Jones in the 43 camp. Penny GMS, I expect to make major, major wonders. And I think actually he will be about 17th or 18th ranked at the end of the season where Eric Jones ranks near the end of the year. Here's the thing. Eric Jones is going to have to win. And I think he's going to win. The problem is I think he's going to be a little bit inconsistent next year and unfortunately miss the playoffs. So I think Eric Jones unfortunately does not make the playoffs in 2023, but I think he barely just does not make it next year. I've got him sadly missing it in 2023. The fourth driver I have missing it is Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs, I expect to do pretty solid next year, but he ain't going to be spectacular like some people are expecting to be. I think Ty Gibbs is a very good driver, don't get me wrong. I just don't think Ty Gibbs is going to have enough speed and enough pace to keep up with some of his Joe Gibbs teammates, so I think he's going to struggle a little bit as a rookie, but I think he's still going to be very solid as a rookie, and I think he's easily going to win the Rookie of the Year honors. Next, let's talk about Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski, I think, has a chance of making the playoffs next year more than he did in 2022, but I think he does in 2023. Here's the problem for Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski, I just don't trust that number 6 team. The team, I think, is going to improve next year, but I think they're going to be a little bit too inconsistent where I think they miss the playoffs. Next, let's talk about Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher, I think, will have a decent shot next year. He was really fast on road courses, so I think that's going to be his best shot to make it. However, I just think there's so many drivers that are better than Chris Buescher in the team right now that I don't trust Chris Buescher enough to where I think he makes the playoffs. Sadly, Buescher doesn't make it. Next, let's talk about Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon actually did make the playoffs in 2022 by winning at Daytona. The only way Austin Dillon, I think, makes it is a win. I think he'll be very consistent, but I think the problem for him is I just don't trust Austin Dillon enough right now to where I think he'd be fast enough to go out there and, win a championship at the moment. So Austin Dillon, I think, unfortunately, misses the playoffs. Next, let's talk about Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell was a very, very strong contender a lot of last year, had a lot of top 10s and even a couple top 5s last year, had a career year. The problem is Blake Harris is not going to be there, and Travis Peterson is going to be the crew chief for Michael McDowell next season. So I think Michael McDowell unfortunately missed it off of that reason alone. Next, let's talk about Noah Gragson. I know a lot of people have Noah Gragson making the playoffs. I know a lot of people are expecting Noah Gragson to make the playoffs next year. And while I think Noah Gragson is going to be a very solid contender in 2023, I just don't see the 42 team stepping up enough. Now, I think he's going to perform way better than Ty Dillon did in that car, but I don't think that Noah Gragson makes the playoffs next year. I just don't trust that number 42 team enough. They've got a good crew chief in Luke Lambert coming into crew chief, which I think could help Noah Gragson, but I think Gragson does not make the playoffs. Next, let's talk about Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece, of course, will be driving the 41 car in 2023. I think Ryan Preece is going to be very solid next year. I think that number 41 team will show a lot of pace and a lot of speed next year. Here's the problem. Ryan Preece has not been in the Cup Series full-time in about 2 seasons. The last time he raced full-time was 2021. And he's only had 2 or 3 starts with the next-gen car. That's going to put Ryan Preece at a little bit of disadvantage. But I will say this. I think the 41 car will be more competitive and will be a better shot of making the playoffs. I think Preece has a shot, but I'm really skeptical on Ryan Preece of him making the playoffs. Next, let's talk about Aric Almirola. Aric Almirola, I'm a little bit skeptical on him performing. I know it sounds crazy to say, considering that I really thought that he was going to be someone that was going to be extremely quick. The problem with Aric Almirola, and I'm a little nervous about Aric Almirola going into next year, is I just don't know about Almirola having the overall drive and pace to do it. I just sadly don't think that Aric's going to have a chance in the 10 team, and I think next year he retires. Next, Justin Haley. Justin Haley, 31 team, showed a lot of promise last year, but I don't see Justin Haley making the playoffs. 31 team doesn't make it. Next, Harrison Burton. Only way they make it is Super Speedway win, and sadly, I don't see them getting a Super Speedway win, so I don't see them making it. Next, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. JTG Doherty hasn't shown the overall pace and speed to do anything and do anything really competitive, so I think it's unfortunately Stenhouse doesn't make it. After that, you've got Todd Gilliland, who I believe is Todd Gilliland. Todd Gilliland next, he'll be in 38 next year. I know he's kind of been hit or miss on that, but he'll be in the 38. Todd Gilliland will be good on road courses. That's about it. Then you've got Corey LaJoie. LaJoie and Ty Dillon. I'll put both these guys in the same category. They're probably going to be the worst forming full-time drivers, unless we do get Cody Ward next year. I think Spire's shown some promise in the past for sure, but I just think, sadly, we're not going to see Ty Dillon or Corey LaJoie make it. So I think those two, unfortunately, end up missing it next season. So, just a reminder, the 16 guys I've got making the playoffs are Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Mark Truex Jr., Austin Cindric, Todd Reddick, Bubba Wallace, AJ Allmendinger, and Daniel Suarez. So, that is going to be for the early 2023 NASCAR Cup Series playoff predictions. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links are below that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your early 2023 NASCAR Cup Series playoff predictions? Let me know those in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to have the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series driver lineup predictions on the channel. On Sunday, we're going to have the 2023 Formula 1 driver lineup, which has been officially confirmed, and also potentially an update video on the channel as well. And then on Monday, will either be a NASCAR news video or another special video on the channel that you're going to see. Got a lot of really fun content on the way as we close out the 2022 year and head into 2023. A lot of fun stuff, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.